Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. It's Tony Tonkin here on the Tony Tonkin Show, but with my friend on a Thursday afternoon, Avery Hildish. Just before I introduce Avery, I just want to let you all know what we're going to be talking about today, which is going to be something that I'm sure is going to interest you all, and that is Donald Trump and what's happening in the United States and some of his bizarre nominations for secretaries or whatever. And also I'm going to have a chat with Avery about some interesting consequences of suing someone when you have clearly libelled them. So I'll just introduce Avery. How are you, mate? Good to see you.
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. So you got over your coughing? That's all dealt with now?
I have. It was as I was explaining earlier. It's a sort of overnight thing. It builds up at the back of the throat. I spend half the morning coughing. It's a thing called RSV. I've had respiratory syncytial virus.
All right, so it's a nasal thing.
Yeah.
Like it's okay.
I'm glad. Not naval, nasal.
Nasal, no. There's nothing about pre-birth or anything or post-birth or
no, nothing about shit.
Because that's all happened to you, hasn't it? The post-birth thing.
It has.
Look, so we've had so we weren't able to do anything last week because you were unwell, which is a bit unfortunate. But I'm glad you could be back with us today to talk about things that are extremely, extremely important to all of us. And I wanted to kick off. Firstly, I think I need to say that. I'm becoming more and more concerned. I just don't know what you think about this. I'm becoming extremely concerned about the influence of the right wing. Some people actually have told me that I should refer to it as something else. I don't know what I should be referring to it as, but the other side of politics, the non-progressive side of politics, if you like, the conservative side of politics, and their influence over the crazy conservative views around a whole host of things that we're now seeing implemented in the United States. And I guess I'm a little bit fearful that to some extent some of those issues that we're seeing in terms of popularism via Trump will be something that we also will experience here in Australia. And I just want to say that I've been watching a press conference talk by Nick Bryant, who is a BBC commentator, BBC journalist, who lived in the US, a lot of reporting on Washington. He's written a book called The Endless Wars, and he also now lives in Australia. He's seen the light, Avery. He's decided to move here. So Nick, and I've just put the site I've put on the description, the comment section, pardon me, below. So anybody who does watch this now or later, click on that, have a look at what Nick has to say, because he's talking about the very same things that we're talking about, but he's doing it in a far more intellectual and easier to understand way than perhaps you and I would because of his background. So anyway, what do you think? Do you want to just give an overview of your response to what's been happening in the United States? And then I'll just go through a couple of news items that will help us.
Yeah, I've been interested in politics for well over 50 years. And just this morning, we were watching some stuff on YouTube about it. And a word pops into my head which perfectly describes, in my view, Trump's management style in government. And that word is kakistocracy. He is picking a kakistocracy is government.
Can you spell that? Can you spell that for us?
Yeah, it's KAKISTOCRACY.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly as it sounds, kakistocracy. It means government by the least competent, most least able people that you can get. And when you look at choices like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Matt Gaetz, they have got no relevant skills or experience. And they will be a disaster. And I would hate to see that sort of thing, that sort of cabinet choice appear in this country.
Do you think is it likely, because we are a different system though than the United States, aren't we? I mean, we appoint our politicians become the ministers, whereas in the United States they appoint someone who's supposedly supposed to have some background in the portfolio in which they're been nominated. So we're somewhat different because we employ public servants to be heads of departments, don't we? Which is different from the United States, who appoint people to be secretary of, defence, whatever. Whereas those appointments are through our politicians primarily.
Yeah. Well,
that's the difference, isn't it?
The major difference is that people that enter the cabinet here in Australia are elected.
Yep.
Right. But that doesn't mean that they have got vast experience in the post into which they're appointed.
Yes, but it does mean. But hold on, Avery. But it does mean that the reliance is upon the public service to be able to provide whatever information that you need and to implement policies.
Yeah. Good examples are people like Luke Donaldson, who was the former Child Protection Minister in Victoria. He was an electrician. Rachel Sanderson here in South Australia, she ran a model agency.
Yeah, she was hopeless too. I said that.
She was hopeless. So was Luke Donaldson. How does that qualify them? I wrote to the state premier here and in Victoria, asking them what was, how did he pick them? How did they pick those two people? I never got an answer. The correct answer is that they rely upon public servants with long experience to advise them. Then they've got good analytic skills, and they use those good analytic skills to assess the information provided by the experts. That's the correct answer. In the United States, ever since the country started up 248 years ago, it's who does the president like? They're not elected. I mean, people like Matt Gaetz was elected into office as a representative in the House of Reps, but he wasn't elected to be the Attorney General. Tulsi Gabbard was elected to the House of Reps, but she wasn't elected to be DNI, Defence, whatever. I can't remember what DNI stands for now.
Department of National Intelligence.
Yeah.
So she looks after and is So she looks after and is responsible for the 18.
Yeah.
It amazes me. Intelligence agencies within the United States.
Her vast experience. Right? Was it 6 years in the House? I think it was 6. And she was a medical clerk. She was a Democrat. I've got no problem with her changing political position. People do it. Whatever. I did it. I used to be over on the right. I'm now firmly on the left.
Yeah,
right?
likewise.
I've got no problem with her changing position.
You and I have seen the light. That's the thing, Avery.
Absolutely. But say, somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, her experience in the military was a medical clerk. She got to I think E3 or E4, which isn't even a corporal in the military here. She's like third or fourth from the bottom of the ladder. And this person is qualified to be the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. That's what it is.
Director, that's it. Well done.
Yeah, not department, Director of National Intelligence. Yep. She is not qualified for it. She is part of as I said, the kakistocracy. Matt Gaetz, right? He does have a law degree. Right? He's never practiced law. He's never been up in front of a judge and prosecuted a criminal case, a felony case. He's done things like parking tickets and speeding fines and things like that. Minor, very minor, trivial misdemeanor type of offences. And he didn't do that for very long. I think that was less than a year that he was working there. And then he goes off and does whatever he's doing now, stirring up.
Yeah, and he's never really prosecuted any cases, whether criminal or otherwise. And but I guess the point. Yeah, but the point I guess I want to make is that if our Attorney General, so the title Attorney General would go to the politician that's been nominated by the department, by the government, or by
Yeah,
the Prime Minister or the
Prime
caucus,
Minister.
whatever, to take that, to have that job, right? And that person normally, as is in the case with our current Attorney General, is a solicitor,
Yeah,
right? So normally for important jobs like that, there is someone within government who can take over that role, but then
yeah,
there is a department head who they seek information from in relation to what is legal and what is not legal and appropriate and so on. So
yeah.
that's the way our system works. But their system, in my view, seems to work a little bit differently to that, in that it does tend to rely heavily on that person who's nominated to have the political power to change a system, whereas our system has so many checks and balances in it that it would be very difficult for someone to do the same. I'm just wondering whether can you draw a parallel between those two? Whether it is possible within our system to implement someone like JFK, who's got no information on no RFK rather. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to John. RFK to implement policies around health when he has no understanding. In fact, is full of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So would that be possible? Would it be possible to have someone like Senator Antic or Senator Babbitt running a department in Australia that would just be about, would they have the power and influence to control the bureaucracy in a way which would be detrimental to the country?
Firstly, just for anybody watching in the United States, a solicitor is an attorney. Right? They might not. I don't think they use that word very often in the United States. A solicitor is an attorney, not somebody who stands on a street corner.
Soliciting, not a prostitute. Even though you could argue that if you could argue the way they actually gather money, they are. Yes, right.
But so it's a solicitor, an attorney, somebody with legal experience. Could it happen here? Yes. We could, we could get somebody appointed who doesn't have the skills. Using the AG as an example, it doesn't have the legal skills. Isn't a solicitor, an attorney, doesn't have a law degree, hasn't got the analytic skills to listen to what the expert says, or thinks that I know everything because I've been appointed to AG, and I'm just going to go my own way. That could happen here. One of the reasons it could happen here is because we don't have that, like they've got in the United States, that Senate confirmation process, where that's Prime Minister nominates somebody. This is my cabinet pick. Right? The caucus might talk about it and say, yeah, okay, that person's fine.
Yeah.
But there's no formal process like they've got in the Senate in the United States.
So do you think? I haven't thought of that. So we don't have, but we don't need one because they've already been nominated by the public because they've been voted for. They haven't actually been voted for that position though. They've been elected. That's right. They've been elected, but not specifically to that position. Those positions are provided for them after the government has been settled. So, you raise a good point though. Should we? No, we shouldn't. That's a really interesting question. I've never thought of that, Avery. I just need to say at this point that if someone if somebody's watching this and wishes to comment, please put a comment in below. And also, I just need to say, could you please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for further notifications? That would be quite handy as well. So, what do you think of that idea? That we should we have people confirmed in the same way?
I think it's a good argument that we should, but I'm not so convinced it should be the way it is in the United States. I think it should be external to the government.
But the point is that if they get, so how do people get picked for? How do the public servants get chosen for the
Public
roles
service
because we know.
or the
Well, we
cabinet
know that.
ministers.
Yeah, we know that permanent heads of department under the Westminster system can be the same permanent head for a number of changing governments, even changing political party type things. So we know that happens. Does that create a stability within government as opposed to the American system, which can just become chaotic?
Well, it provides more continuity. Yes. Continuity doesn't necessarily mean stability, but generally it would be more stable, and because you've got people who report to their conservative masters, who report to their progressive masters, report
Yeah.
to their. And there's a change of government again now. They've got a conservative in charge, and it's the same person providing the same sort of information, so you get that consistency, and so it's stable
And
in
they're
that
not,
sense.
but they're not influenced by politics because they're supposed to be apolitical, are they not?
Yeah, they are.
No.
But
So
your
that's
question was
so.
about.
You're going.
So your question was, should we have a system of confirmation, the way they've got in the United States, for cabinet appointees here in Australia? And I would say, I think that could be a good idea, because then we're less likely to get the Rachel Sandersons and the Luke Donaldons appointed as cabinet ministers. I mean, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be, but that we'd know something about that person.
Yeah, well,
But I
but they've
don't think
already
we
been,
can.
but they've already been through the political system, and they've been voted
They
in.
haven't been vetted.
So, well,
They
isn't the
haven't been.
political system though a form of vetting?
No, because who?
Surely it is.
What? No,
I think, Avery, we're gonna have a disagreement here. So
we are. The
we
political
are.
system
Explain to me
is the
how it's not
people.
vetting.
The
Go on.
people like they like that person. They like this policy. They don't look at the person's background. People vote. I voted Conservative because my dad voted Conservative. I voted Labour because my dad voted Labour. Right? I'm a working class person, so I'm going to vote Labour. I'm upper middle class, so I'm going to vote Conservative. Right? When people go to vote, it's very rare, or I should say comparatively rare, that people will actually read the policies. And so, what do we know about this person? He's talking about appointing Rachel Sanderson as Child Protection Minister. What do we know about her? And all we know is that she's the person that he picked. And if we might find out, if we go and look, that she got a business degree, and we learned that she ran a modelling agency in South Australia. We don't know if she's got a criminal history of any sort. Because
Well, we
there's no vetting.
do. Well, we do because if she had a criminal history, she probably wouldn't be able to stand for Parliament in the first place. If she if she is bankrupt,
Yeah,
she couldn't do that.
we do have some things like that. We don't, but the thing is, that something like Matt Gaetz in the United States, he doesn't have a criminal history, right? He gets elected. We could have people like that here.
He's
that
pretty
get
close to
elected.
but we would be. Yeah, that's right. No, that's a good
they've
point
got- if
because
they've got a
because he's
criminal
been elected.
conviction-
He's been elected anyway, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
been
here,
elected. So
if a person
point.
runs for office in Australia, as you know, if they've got a criminal conviction that carries a sentence of 1 year or more, they're disqualified. They can't run.
yeah,
But we don't know that they had allegations were made against them, and the Justice Department investigated, and they came to the conclusion we're not going to prosecute. Now that
Yeah.
when the justice, the Crown Prosecution Service here, when they look at all the evidence that's laid out, they can say we've got probable cause to indict, so they indict. But then more information comes in, and they say, okay, we've got all this lot. Do we think we could take this to trial and get a conviction? And if they're not certain, no trial is guaranteed to get a conviction. But once you looked at all the evidence that you've got, if you come to the conclusion we can't be certain that we can't be 95% certain that we'll get a conviction, they decline to prosecute. That doesn't mean the person isn't guilty, but it also means that we don't know about it, which is why I'm saying that if we had some sort of vetting process like they have in the United States, or should have in the United States, um, we'd have a better idea of who that person was. Back to you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't disagree. I just never thought about it really to that extent before until you raised it. So thanks for that. I just wanted to go through a couple of articles, though, Avery, that I came up with that will help us to talk about this stuff. Be interested to know what you think. So the first one is this one, which is from Mother Jones. So in a campaign video from, I'll just read this bit I've got highlighted. In a campaign video from March 2023, Donald Trump laid out his goal to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from the Washington corruption, which is a bit bizarre given the corrupt nature of Washington under Trump. Such rhetoric was common in 2016 too, but this time his incoming administration has an actionable plan for how to do it. I guess they're talking about Project 2025. The idea
Yep.
has existed for years, and as Donald Trump prepares to take office, it will begin on day one. Make thousands of federal career civil servants at will employees and, in turn, fireable for not doing what the new administration demands. This will be the first step in a radical reshaping of the federal government. Repeatedly, the new elected president has made clear his second term will start with a purge. Once pre-vetted paper pushes are in place, policies will be pushed through with less internal resistance from long-time government employees. So that's it. What can you see that happening? Like, that's a prediction, I guess. Is that a reasonable prediction in your view?
I'm certain he's going to try it. Thing about pre-vetting is, are they prepared to put their hand up and swear fealty to Donald Trump? If they're prepared to do that, they're vetted, right?
Well, they
They're
are
not.
apparently Trump's busily ringing all the senators at the moment, convincing them that they should vote for Matt Gaetz because that's what he wants them to do, because that's
Yeah,
about destroying and ripping apart the as he called it, the corrupt Washington corruption. So
yeah.
let's make
Well,
it more corrupt, but that's irrelevant, I guess.
as I said on November the 6th, it, you know, United States democracy, born 4th of July 1776, died 5th of November 2024.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's going to do an awful lot of damage to the country, picking people like Gates and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. Uh,
Okay, so that brings me to the next article that I'll just bring up, which is Trump nominates Dr. Oz as Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. Um, and apparently, I didn't realise this, but apparently this has to be verified as well. Um,
yeah,
uh, whatever they call that. What do they call that before it goes to the Senate?
confirmation.
Confirmation, that's it. Donald Trump has nominated Mehmet Oz, best known globally as Dr. Oz. I wonder whether he's an Australian. Anyway,
I
he's
hope,
not.
hope not.
To serve as the Centres for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, our broken healthcare system, this is what he said. Oh, this is what Trump said, pardon me. Our broken healthcare system harms everyday Americans and crushes our country budget, wrote Trump in his announcement of Oz's nomination. Dr. Oz will be a leader in incentivising disease prevention so we get the best results in the world for every dollar we spend on healthcare in our great country. Now, we can just talk about that in a moment, incidentally. We'll also cut waste and fraud within our country's most expensive government agency, which is a third of our nation's healthcare spend and a quarter of our entire national budget. Trump emphasised that he plans to have Oz work closely with Robert F. Kennedy, his nominee for Health and Human Services Secretary, to take on the illness industry complex and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake. Kennedy is an anti-vaccine activist who ran as an independent in the 2024 presidential race and adopted a slogan of Make America Healthy Again, an offshoot of Trump's Make America Great Again. So there we have this two buffoons uh, governing or controlling the health system in the United States. I mean, and that's a conversation really we need to have about the healthcare system in the United States, which basically is kind of Fruit Looped, because
Well,
when you compare it with other healthcare systems around the world, UK, Australia, Sweden, and so on, it is poor and it's expensive.
yeah, it's the only country on the planet where people go bankrupt. 700,000 a year go bankrupt because they can't pay their medical bills. On RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, I saw something the other day that said that if the brainworm was to feed on both of them, that brainworm would starve to death. I thought that was very,
Okay,
very
very
appropriate.
very astute. Yes,
Yeah.
but do you think that so there's this chronic disease thing. So it's saying here, Trump emphasised that he plans to have, I was work closely with Roger, to take on the illness industry complex. There's no disputing that the Americans are unhealthy, and I suppose they're just as unhealthy as Australians. And particularly in the US, they're far more obese, I think, than Australians. So,
Yeah.
okay, so they're unhealthy. But is that because of their health system, or is it because they just have a culture of eating McDonald's and KFC and other stuff? I
Well,
mean, what is that all about? Do
there's
you think?
other there's other things there. The healthcare system with the pharmaceutical industry, where in the United States, if somebody's I take a drug called Ryzodeg, it's insulin, right? And I pay $35, um, and I'll get something like 3 months' supply of insulin for $35. This exactly the same pen in the United States, or same set of pens in the United States, costs $350 for a month, right? US dollars. And the 350, the 35 I pay is Australian dollars. Convert that to US. I don't know what the exchange rate is, but that's, I don't know what, $40, $45, something like
Well,
that.
one third more, isn't it? It'd be
Yeah.
one third more.
So yeah, $48, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
48 US dollars, right? So now what I'm not sure exactly what the exchange rate is, but the point is that I pay a damn sight less for for 3 months supply of insulin than an American with exactly the same thing, type 2 diabetes, spends for 1 month supply. And it's the same with any drugs that you've got in there. So people are one of the reasons they're unhealthy is because they just can't afford the medical the drugs that they need,
But
because
do
the
you
pharmaceutical
think?
industry
But is
owns
that
the
is that
government.
what this? But is that what they're saying though? I mean, I'm trying to give credit where credit's due. Are they saying that that is the system that they wish to correct? So are they going to go after pharmaceutical companies for the prices they pay? Because the price they pay are outlandish compared to. So you buy a drug in Canada, for example, that's one third of the price that it is in the
Yeah.
United States. So clearly, it's about profiteering. The pharmaceutical companies have been well known for that, in fact. So is
Yeah.
that what they're after? And if they are, then that's a good thing, I would think. Or is it about these people just enacting upon their conspiracy theories, and the
I think
basis for any argument is about the conspiracy?
I think there's two things there. One is that yes, they're after the money. That's all they're interested in. Look at that guy from is it Rick Perry or something like that from Florida? Right? One of the biggest Medicare scandals. Billions of dollars in fines for defrauding Medicare. Right? I think it was
Yeah.
1.4 or 2.4 billion. It was a huge amount of money. The Purdy's, one of the biggest drug manufacturers in the United States, all about money. $4 billion fine they got. But
That's
it's
for the
also,
opioid crisis, I think.
yeah,
Was that?
that's,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other issue with what what you're saying about conspiracy theories is the United States used to lead the world in science. Now that's China and India, right? The United States has got people who just deny the science. They think scientific research is sitting on the toilet with a cell phone in their hand, looking stuff up on YouTube. It's
Yeah.
not, you know. Scientific research. I know I've done my research, and I saw this thing on YouTube that was published by some joker sitting in his basement saying that vaccines cause autism, so we've got to stop all vaccines.
Well, there also
Compared with
there's
the
a video.
people who've actually done the work.
Well, there's a video out there with Kennedy saying that the COVID vaccine was manipulated so that it would attack Jewish people and black people, I think is what he said.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is just
There's also videos
crazy,
out in,
crazy shit to
there's
start
also,
with. So,
yeah. So there's also videos of RFK Jr. saying vaccines are fantastic. We should be vaccinating our kids, and we should be vaccinating this and and
even though he says it
and
causes autism.
well, yeah, he wasn't saying that at first. He was a pro-vaccine activist at one time.
All right. So he's
But
flexible.
he got
Is that what we're saying? The
well,
man,
no,
the
he's had
man
a
can
brain,
change his
he's had a
mind.
brainworm. He's had a
The brainworm
brain
got
worm.
into him. That's
Yeah.
right. So I guess the point is too that need we be concerned in Australia about this stuff and to be honest, to be frank, I think that that we need to sit back and watch and see the disintegration of the United States happen before our very eyes and watch us retreat to our nearest neighbours like China, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and even Europe and the UK, and watch the United States just isolate themselves further and further and further and become less and less significant, and watch them tumble into a recession.
Yeah.
And for
The
the
thing is,
rest of us to insulate ourselves in such a way that we'll just spend the rest of the decade just laughing at them.
the thing is that if he does what I think he's going to do, that's tumble it into recession, right? And
Yep.
depression, even worse. It's
Yep.
not just going to be the United States that's affected. It's going to be us. It's going to be every country in Europe, Asia. It's going to be everywhere. Will be if the United States economy plummets, right? Everybody's going to be affected. Everything that we buy is paid that we import is paid for in US dollars.
Yeah, I know.
If
But
they
that I
we
did
go into
see
recession
something.
or depression, the US dollar
Do you know
devalues.
why? Do you know why it's in the US dollars?
Go on.
It's only in the US dollars because after 1945, the US was the only major country that was unscathed by the war, that no one attacked,
Yeah.
apart from Pearl Harbor. No one attacked them. So they were pretty unscathed. They had everything happening for them in terms of the industrial complex had already started, and they were manufacturing and they're doing all their things that they were doing. They're being innovative and all that sort of crap. So and therefore the dollar was the only stable currency after 1945. So that's why. But that could change. That doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the case. And my argument, and this is what I reckon, this is my prediction. My prediction is that Trump will isolate so many countries and they'll say, fuck you, man, I'm going to go off and do my own thing and I'm going to gather together like BRICS. You know, the British, Russia, what is
Not
it?
British, Brazil.
Brazil, sorry.
Russia, India,
Brazil,
somebody,
in China.
South
Uh,
Africa.
yeah. So all those countries, and apparently there are about 30 countries now that are part of that organisation, and that will grow, and as it grows, it will isolate more and more, the
Yeah.
United States. And, I heard the other day United States population is only 4% of the world.
Yeah.
So there's this other, and 96% of the world that can put its hand up and say, okay, I'm now going to fill that gap. Bugger you guys, you've stuffed yourself up, you've disavowed us, you've decided that Ukraine should go to the Russians, that you don't give a shit about the people in Gaza and what's happening in Lebanon, and you're just a destructive force. We're going to forget about you. The rest of the world, particularly in terms of trade, will have to sort itself out. And I think we will. That's my prediction, Avery. I could be wrong.
Yeah, there's one area that's got something like 550 or 600 million people who are saying we should be using our currency. That's not China or India. That's Europe.
Yeah.
Saying we should be trading in euros.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I get a bit upset that we make China into the big red devil that they are not. China's never engaged in a war outside of their own country.
Yeah.
Do you know that? So they're not a hostile nation. They don't have to be. They've got the ingenuity and the know-how.
Tony, I've got to correct you. They engaged in Korea.
Oh, did they? Well, I apologise.
Yep.
I apologise for the information from the other person that I heard that from. I wasn't aware they engaged in Korea, but nevertheless, they haven't been generally an aggressor. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So, anyway, let's see what happens. The other thing,
their systems are reprehensible, but they don't. Outside of. I'm going to go and correct another thing. Outside of, they've never done anything outside of China. They invaded Tibet. That was an independent country at one time.
Well, that's true. I know that for a fact. So I'm standing corrected on 2 occasions, Avery.
I'll see if I can find a third for you.
Oh, please. However, I still think that they're sometimes made out to be a country that they're not in terms of aggression.
Yeah.
Even though I'd be very disappointed if they attacked Taiwan. Okay, I just wanted to move on to our final topic, which is attacking of free speech. So I'll just play. This is Andrew Bolt addressing Pauline Hanson's guilty verdict, which was against Green Senator Maureen Faraki, which was her suing our friend Pauline Hanson on this particular issue. So I'll just play this video for us and we'll talk about it.
Free speech that's devastated Pauline Hanson and left her One Nation party facing bankruptcy with legal bills estimated at $900,000. It's disturbing because it seems to me that Hanson has essentially been found guilty of criticising the extreme political beliefs of a woman who, just by chance, is brown and Muslim. That woman is Green Senator Maureen Faraki, who 2 years ago responded to the Queen's death with a crude tweet: "Condolences to those who knew the Queen. I cannot mourn the leader of a racist empire built on stolen lives, land and wealth of colonised."
And I noticed that last time when I was playing this, that it came to this end at this particular point. So I don't know what the reason for that is. But the point is that Andrew Bolt is having a go at the senator for this particular verdict, which came out in favour of the Senator Faraki versus Senator Hanson. And I think you had some take on that as well, and issues around being a civil case versus being a criminal case, and what all that means.
Well, it's not. It's a pedantic issue, in that you're not found guilty of a civil offence. You're found liable. So when Andrew Bolt said she was found guilty of libel, no, she wasn't. She was found liable for libel. What Faraki said, I would agree, is not a very nice thing, to put it politely. an old lady died, aged 97 or whatever it was, mourn the death, right? You can criticise the British government, the British Empire afterwards, but don't tie the two together, right? So I can understand anybody criticising her, and we should be free to. The fact she's brown and Muslim is irrelevant. You don't get some special protection because you're brown. You don't get some special protection because you're a Muslim. You don't get special protection because you're white or a Christian or an atheist or a Hindu. It doesn't matter. If you say, as long as what's attacked is what is said, the idea, that is fine. That should be fine. We should be free to say what we want, as long as we're not shouting fire in a crowded theatre, as long as we're not trying to stir people to violence.
So regardless of what you might think about the Queen, and I'm actually in Faraki's camp in relation to that, I don't necessarily think that you need to say that you don't need to. In her view, the Queen represents colonisation, which I tend to agree with, and she said what she said. But to be told that you should piss off and go back to where you came from, which is Pakistan.
That is reprehensible.
Regardless of what,
she's got a right to say what she says. I just wouldn't have. I'd have preferred to see her say, very sorry to see that the Queen of England has died. My condolences to her family. Then a couple of days later, talking after the funeral and whatever stuff like that's gone on, criticise the British Empire all you like. Another thing as well is that the Queen didn't represent British colonialism, because it was under Queen Elizabeth that the colonies started to disappear and get independence. Right? She was the monarch. I'm not a supporter of the Queen. When I lived in the UK, I wanted to see that country turn into a republic, and I still do. And I want this one to be a republic and get away from that connection. Right?
But people make the association, though, Avery, with the crown. Forget who's carrying it. Forget who's wearing it. Yeah. They see the crown as being the colonisers, and particularly if you're Indigenous and of colour, you might take exception to that because of what they have done and the policies that have eventuated from that, which have only changed in recent times. If we look at 1966 and the change of the Nexus, so it's in our lifetime that those policies have changed to some extent. But at least we're recognising Indigenous people.
It's absolutely right to say the British, the French, the Spanish, the Dutch.
Well, a whole lot of them, man.
The Germans.
Yeah.
They all went out. The Russians, they all went out and invaded other countries and imposed their style of government on those countries. Yeah. Absolutely right to say that. But I'm just saying that the Queen herself, right, she basically, from the start of her reign in 1952, she basically oversaw the decolonisation and the breakup of the British Empire. I 100% support Faruqi's right to think what she thinks and say what she wants to say. She's not trying to stir up violence or anything like that. She's just expressing an opinion. I just think the two of them should have been separated. That's a different issue.
So, but one of the, because I don't know about you, but
saying that you should go back to Pakistan. Right? Well, why doesn't Pauline Hanson should go back to Brisbane and she should keep her mouth shut?
No, she should go back to the UK. And she tried to go back. Did you hear about the story about her going? Pauline Hanson went to the UK for a couple of months and didn't like it because there were too many other people that didn't look like her. Yeah. So she didn't like that at all. Anyway,
she should go to Russia.
She probably should. She'd be working there with open arms, I'm quite sure. So there's this other video that I just wanted to play where Andrew Bolt has something further to say about attack on free speech and the fact that Pauline Hanson broke down, poor thing, in tears. So we'll play that.
To Pauline Hanson, the One Nation leader. It's her first interview since that judge's decision. I've never seen her so shattered. She couldn't at first speak from crying.
Oh, sorry. Just give me a minute.
Pauline Hanson, thanks for coming on the show. I can tell how upset you are. That decision, that legal case seems to have knocked you for absolute six. What do you think about it?
What? Sorry.
Again, it stops. It only seems to allow me to discuss a little bit. But when I watched this video, I just wanted to say that I had no sympathy for Pauline Hanson whatsoever. In fact, I couldn't give a rat's ass about how sad she felt about the fact that she was found liable in a court of law for defaming somebody else, given all the nasty things this revolting excrement has said about Indigenous people, about Asian people, about anybody who looked different to her. And I think a just punishment. It's a shame it wasn't she couldn't be sent to jail for it, which happened to her many years ago for fraud, I hasten to add. But I don't feel any sympathy. I mean, my wife felt more sympathy for her than I did, and I just couldn't bring myself to it. I thought, this is the just desserts.
Yeah.
And
when I saw that,
sorry, go on. Yeah,
I was going to say, when I saw that, the thought that immediately leapt into my head was, if she wants sympathy, she'll find after shit and suicide in the dictionary.
Sympathy, right? No, fair enough. I thought it was kind of like karma.
A reprehensible woman.
Yep, and it was like karma, and it was interesting. I couldn't play it there because it wouldn't allow me to play through it. And the problem for that is I think I kept it on my in Google for too long without coming out. But anyway, Andrew Bolt said to her at one point, which I wanted to play but I can't, that he didn't believe that she didn't mean what she said. He actually said, "I don't believe you, Pauline. I think you meant what you said." She said she didn't mean it to sound the way that it did. Go, piss off and go back to Pakistan.
Go back where you came from.
Yeah. She made up some pathetic excuse about what she actually meant, and I can't remember what that was now. But it was it was pathetic as what she said. So no sympathy for her whatsoever.
That's like Trump saying that he couldn't see why Putin would interfere with US elections. He made shit up afterwards. He realised he'd done something wrong. So, no, that's not what I meant. Yeah. And she's doing exactly the same. She's lost a lawsuit. I don't know what it's going to cost her. Have they announced that?
Yeah, I think it was the figure $90,000 comes to mind. It was a sizable amount. Plus
I didn't know
expenses.
There was $900,000 in legal fees.
It was something. I actually can't. I'm just trying to find it here. I can't see it. I don't know. But it was it was a considerable amount, and it will break her. It's a sad thing because she has made literally. I kid you not. She's made millions of dollars from being a politician because of the amount of money refunded per vote for the One Nation Party. And my guess is she's pocketed most of that herself.
They did say on that broadcast that it could well bankrupt One Nation. And I wouldn't be too sorry to see them go.
No, bit like it'd be nice to see Clive Palmer's party go as well. So, okay, look, Avery, thanks very much for the chat today. I hope you're well enough to do it again next week. We'll pick and advertise a couple of appropriate topics to talk about. Yep. Okay. Thanks, mate. Yep. Thanks, everybody, for those people that did watch this live feed. It was kind of a bit disjointed, I guess, but it did cover some areas that were quite significant to us. And I'm just wondering what you think. Just remember that if you like to subscribe to my channel, would be absolutely fabulous, and ring the bell for further notifications. And of course, there'll be more videos on a daily basis in terms of some of the issues that matter particularly to me. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.
Oh, we're done now.